Infiltration, greetings to all and sundry, my dear people of Ambazonia, my fellow brave warriors of the Southern Cameroon's liberation movements. Accept greetings from me, Comrade John Akuro, this day, the first day of November 2023. Of course, today is Wednesday. Folks, I'm here today for us to have a conversation around some very, very sensitive and important subject matter. Very sensitive because this is something that really is at the core, at the core of our liberation movement and at the core of La République du Cameroon's strategy to, outdo us as far as this liberation movement is concerned and to ensure that we stay under slavery and servitude. I'm convinced that this revelation that I had, I call it a revelation, it's true that I've always imagined and I've had the opportunity to talk here about issues in that light, but it's a fact I never had it as graphically as I have it today. After I had a very serious conversation with one of the repentant so-called elite from the southern Cameroons operating within the ambit of the government, the corrupt government of Mr. Paul Biya in La République du Cameroon. You know, since the outbreak of this armed conflict between La République du Cameroon and the people of the southern Cameroons, the people of Ambazonia, La République du Cameroon has sought to play delay tactics. We noticed that from one step to the other, if you go through the first, discussions that the government of La République du Cameroon tried to open through pseudo sources before we got to what is today known as the Bosch Swiss initiative, and then to also the Bosch Canada pre-talks, you'll notice that La République du Cameroon's penchant has been to play for time. And I've explained here before that for La République du Cameroon, time has always been essential because they've always convinced themselves that over time, people get tired, people get frustrated, people get weak, and then people give up. And during this time that they are playing for time, they have specific things that they do. They don't just sit and they're waiting for time to play out. They have specific things that they do. In the case of the opposition, I have mentioned here before because I was actually in Bamenda in 2010 when Mr. Paul Biya visited and had what was described then as that historic sitting with Mr. John Frundi. Before it happened, the next narrative was ready to claim, of course, the Senator Tanga Ponji out to claim that during that visit, Mr. Biya handed 500 million CFA to Mr. Frundi. Some said it was 30 million, some said they even saw a briefcase full of money that he had given, and that is how they started eroding Mr. Frundi's image and the image of the SDF, and then using that because they know that people are gullible by dint of repeating this lie over and over, using paid local press, local news organs to do that. They succeeded in eroding trust in his person, trust in his political party, right to the point where Mr. Frundi himself at some point convinced himself that, okay, now the way things are, it makes sense perhaps to cooperate. And that is exactly how the opposition gradually, literally disappeared in Cameroon after it was so strong from 1990. You see that by 2023, where we are today, it's almost a unique party system in La République du Cameroon. Now, I don't want to take a lot of our time. I want to get straight into the beef of the matter. With respect to the situation of the southern Cameroons, La République du Cameroon operated first on what you would call isolating, targeting, people that they thought could be, the subject of a lot of trust and have a lot of followership, try to bribe them and then push them back and turn them against the struggle. That way, they believe that with each person falling, the following that you had would definitely go with you. And at some point, they actually even planted their own agents into the movement who will fight so hard, swear Ambazonian morning, afternoon, evening, even dress with Ambazonian, even easily have underwears that are Ambazonian colors. And at the end of the day, they garner enough trust, and then when they crash out, they come out now saying all the negative things about the liberation movement and saying all the virtues about having to stay back in the one Cameroon with La République du Cameroun. That was another aspect of the strategy. But the ultimate one, after they tried all of this, and they noticed that the resolve of the people has been very strong, they decided to start doing something called the planting of blacklegs, especially abroad. Now we have used to what has been called blackleg, what has been referred to as blackleg, mainly on ground zero, where you have people in the various communities who are contacted, promised a lot of money, and asked to give information about the whereabouts of our self-defense volunteers, or give information about people who are contributing and helping to push the struggle forward, who are in specific places, so that they should be targeted and then taken out. But now they discovered that the bulk of the financing at some point in this liberation movement was coming from abroad. When they could sit and hear us call huge sums of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars on social media, these are the amounts that we are contributing, putting together or whatnot, as a war chest to use in booting them out of our territory, they got frightened because they know the convertibility. Even if you say we've raised $1 million, they know converted in CFA, that is about 600 million CFA. I mean 600 million CFA, and they know exactly what that can do. So then, the next campaign was to make sure that they install blacklegs abroad to attack the evil from the root. I should say, to a certain extent, they have succeeded. Why do I say so? Because there are a lot of people in this liberation movement who were contributing seriously, very greatly, to push this liberation movement forward, but whom today are in limbo. They don't even want to hear you mention the word Ambazonia by them. Why? Because of exactly what I'm about to explain now. And this is really serious. I know that in the diaspora right now, a lot of people no longer disclose to friends and family that they are traveling back home. Why? Because they discovered that right back here, the people right back here, just waiting, monitoring to have information about folks traveling back home, so that they should arrange that they either kidnap their family members or kidnap the individuals themselves to collect money from them. And this was not only aimed at racketeering. No, this elite that explained this to me very carefully indicated that it served a dual and even a triple function. The first, they were making a lot of money from it. They have been making a lot of money from it. Making sure if you are traveling back home, they know you are traveling back home. They either plan to kidnap you or plan to kidnap your family member while you are back home and put you under pressure to pay huge sums of money. And of course, they make money from that source. They used even military people to do that. And of course, as he said, and as we have heard before, even from late Mr. Fundi's own lips, they have their own groups. This is not new. They have their own groups operating on the ground as Amber Boys, whose role is to play exactly this specific role. Though they might have fallen in number, but they are still there in good numbers. At some point, some of them were detected in places, some of them were caught in places who were sitting and making calls and threatening people, and they discovered that they had nothing at all to do with the fight. But there are some who are actually carrying toys, who actually have camps, who are actually in the bushes, but who are not for this liberation movement, who are there to play this specific role that I'm talking about. And so therefore, it consisted of identifying that this person is traveling back home, and they give that information. So they will get money from you when they capture your family member, and then the next role that it plays is it turns you against the struggle. Now they moved another inch, and that other inch is one that he explained, is to identify those who are so motivated, who are contributing a lot to move the liberation movement forward, so they will capture their family members, whether they are traveling home or not. They will capture their family members. If they have businesses that were not known to be their businesses, they will target these businesses. And the intention is not only to make money from you, but it's especially to make you bitter against the liberation movement so that you will stop to contribute. Because the big thing they need to do is cut off the source of finance. And when they cut off the source of finance, cut off the source of money, they know it will get to a point where the actors on the ground will simply begin to drain into the DDR, will simply become outright bandits because they need to survive, they need to fight, they will need to get equipment, they will need to get things here and there. And when they don't have it, they will start falling on people around them to harass them and get this money. And then it will turn the population, the local population, against them, and they will be forced to become blacklegs as well, and they will begin to cooperate with the government. This is exactly what has been going on. Now, why am I taking the pains to explain this? Because when he explained to me, he said, it's complex, it's difficult, because it touches on the softest part of our beings. Yes, it touches on the softest part of our being. You know people who are contributing tens of thousands, and then suddenly you hear they have gone and captured your father, who is even ill, and they go and keep him, and they tell you must give 20 million CFA before he is released. And you start pleading, you start calling people and say, but I am part of this struggle. And they're telling you, we can't hear that, we don't know you. We have never seen you, we have not heard from you. And one thing they're certain about is that after making money from you, the next thing that will happen is they have turned you successfully against the liberation movement. The next thing is they have made sure you will never contribute $1 again for the movement because of anger, because of frustration, because you feel betrayed. That's exactly what this is all about. If you are watching me now and you have experienced this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You see, they told me, Mr. Akura, if you yourself step your foot back home now, trust me, very easily you'll be picked up and you'll be wondering why someone like you, who is well known in the movement, someone like you who's fighting tooth and nail, you wonder why someone like you should be captured. Say no, because that is how it has been made to be. And so therefore, folks, when we know this, we have to look for strategies to circumvent it. You know, when we had a conference in Canada somewhere last year, we were told by on-the-ground actors that at this point in time that we are talking, almost 70% of the resources they use to prosecute the liberation movement on the ground comes from the ground. It's mobilized on the ground. When you get this background knowledge, you discover therefore that it is not strange. Because when these self-defense volunteers find themselves without resources to keep defending themselves and defending the land, they will do unorthodox things to get the means to get those toys to fight. Because if they don't fight, they will die. And so therefore, we will sit back. We will call them kidnappers. We will call them gangsters. We will call them all kinds of names. It's simply because we don't have that clear understanding of exactly what is going on. It's simply because we have stopped funding the liberation movement. That is it. Simply because we have been frustrated and turned against it for good reason. I'm not blaming you. I'm not blaming any of us. Turned against it for good reason. So this is like Republic du Cameroon's strategy. Make sure they plant more people among us, even in the diaspora, who will give information of this person is contributing very well, this person is one person. If targeted, you will sever the movement of a very vital source of financing. I want to doff my heart to all those who have been affected and who said, I will never turn against or abandon this quest for freedom. Because the enemy that we are dealing against, La République du Cameroon, is the most specialized entity in the world in manipulations, in playing all these kind of games, in turning family members against the other. Listen, folks, check in La République du Cameroon today as we speak. There is not a single family, even in the south, where Mr. Pobia comes from, that have peace and understand each other very well. No. The divide and rule approach to that country has reached all kinds of ends. And you notice there's just one ambition: keep the people subjugated, keep the people in perpetual fear, and maintain power for as long as possible. That is why you could hear the phrase, the boast, ne dure pas au pouvoir qui veut, mais dure qui peut. That does not stay long in power who wants, but stays long who can. Underline the word can. Because they don't care about the well-being of the people. They don't care whether the people have good roads, the people have good hospitals, the people are well taken care of. They don't give a damn to all of that. There's only one thing that matters: staying in power, holding the people in check, squeezing the people under perpetual slavery and servitude. So when you are dealing with such an enemy, you know there is a lot of sacrifice you have to make. Take it from me. There is going to be a lot of sacrifice you have to make. It pains. It hurts when you are touched at the place where you think you shouldn't be touched. It pains. It hurts when the same people you are fighting for and with appear to be turning against you. When you think that we need each other so much. This is the work of the enemy. This is the approach of the enemy. We have to devise all kinds of strategies to be able to overcome this challenge. My people, we're engaged on a path. There's a movie I watched when I was in secondary school. The title was The Only Way. But before that title, there was a kicker called Hard Way, with two words, Hard Way, and then under The Only Way. Hard Way, the only way. It is hard, very difficult, but this is the only way before us. The only way for us to end all this is for us to tell ourselves, by no means, nothing, no strategy from La République du Cameroon can discourage me, can discourage us. We will keep financing this liberation movement because Ground Zero, the home front, needs us. The home front needs us like they need oxygen. If we want to make sure that the civilians in the various communities have less harassment, we need to fill back the gap that we have created. We need to rise back to the occasion and make sure we provide what is required for those who are prosecuting the liberation movement on the ground to do their job. Because when they don't have, they will do anything where they are to have the ability to keep the fire burning. Folks, we have not seen the last of this, but we have to be vigilant. We have to be vigilant. Sometimes we sit and we are boastful for good reason, because we are proud that we are contributing heavily to free our people. But you don't know that you are boasting, you are expressing your pride, your Ambazonian pride before someone who is busy out here watching out and listening in order to cause us harm and to turn you against your own dream, to turn us against our own dream, to turn us against what we want most, to turn us against our aspirations, to turn us against our quest to get a better future, not only for our children, but for our children's children, for generations upon generations of Ambazonians yet to be born. What I'm saying is fundamental. It may appear simplistic at the surface, but trust me, folks, it is deep, very deep. Look around us in the communities. You will find that in our midst, in whichever part of the diaspora you are, look around us, you see that those who were the major contributors, a good lot of them, don't want to hear about Ambazonia anymore. Sounds familiar? And you don't need to ask them, because a good lot of us have heard of what happened to them. And we will not even go close to them again to say anything about Ambazonia, because we know they must be dead angry they must be dead frustrated, they must be so seriously wounded and are still licking their wounds because of the claim that the dog that they were breeding had turned against its master. Folks, this is what it is. This is what it is. La République du Cameroon resolutely now is attacking what they consider to be the sources of financing. You heard or you saw a release by the colonial SDO for Meme saying that every farmer who has to ship cocoa out of their farms, either to Kumba Central, to Douala, or wherever, must inform his office and obtain permission, so they will be sent a number of soldiers to guard the truck. And the reason was simple, that cocoa, transaction in cocoa, appeared to be a major source, on the ground source, of financing the liberation movement. Because they told themselves that the more the people sell to business entities in Nigeria at over 1,500 CFA a kilogram, instead of selling to Telka Cocoa or to others in Douala, Cameroon for 750, 800 francs, that the big chunk of that extra money is being used to finance the liberation movement. And so for that reason, they needed to attack it. This is just a simple example to let you know. All they are doing is do everything possible to attack the sources of financing right now, to try and defund the liberation movement as much as possible. Folks, one thing I remain delighted about is that we also are becoming conscious of the fact that we still need to come up with better strategies to pull resources together. That's why I'm actually vending to each and every one of us also the One Pot Relief. Go to www.onepotrelief.org. You find the contribution portal there. You can contribute under your county. This is one way. For a good lot of us, this looks like the ideal way. But there are other actors out there also collecting money through other ways. Listen, folks, I've said this and I will repeat it over and over. And get me right. Don't stop financing this liberation movement because you're angry with A, with B, or with C. If you are frustrated with me and the fact that I am not talking about the One Pot Relief, by all means contribute wherever else you consider that the finances will get to ground zero and will serve the purpose for which it is intended. By all means, contribute. By all means, let's finance this liberation movement. By all means, let us bring the help and the succor that those who are on the home front deserve from us to make sure we get La République du Cameroon out of our territory. Be wise. Mind who you talk to and what you talk about to those people. Folks, let us not allow La République du Cameroon the pleasure to turn us, to say they have successfully turned us, a good lot of us, against our own dream. That would be heresy. My country people, we get for turn up strong. I will be back on the same subject matter. I actually did not intend this particular communication to be long, as we are already getting to 25 minutes. I would absolutely like to, close it right here because, folks, I want us to share this as much as we can. Let's get as many people as possible to watch this video. Share this message. Share this message. Let us know, because knowledge is power. I say this and I repeat it. By no means should we ever be pushed to turn against that which we believe in. The freedom of Ambazonia is paramount. It's more than everything else. Right down to the last iota of my blood and energy, I will continue to fight for the freedom of Ambazonia. I believe in absolute independence. I say absolute independence. I always quote from the late venerated Christian Cardinal Toomey, because he said, in presenting the result of his survey, that 69% of our people wrote it out, did not tick it because it was not offered to tick. They were asked to say what they thought. They wrote it out. Absolute independence. Let us not settle for less than we deserve. Because if we do, we would end up with less than we ever settled for. Thank you, folks. To God and to God alone.